Hey everybody, this is Matt and we're at Texas Toast Guitars. Thanks for watching. Today we're going to do something that I think is really neat and I hope you like it too. We are going to make a BC Rich Mockingbird shaped body. So the other day my friend Bruce comes into the shop and he requested that I build him something that looked a lot like a BC Rich Mockingbird base. And of course that's not really a big deal because the distance from the nut to the bridge is really the only key component there. This part can be whatever shape you want it to be. And Bruce is a great big tall intimidating looking dude, so BC Rich is kind of right up his alley. So I ordered some templates and I got them from this place. I'm not going to say the name of it. I'm going to cover up the name because I'm less than jazzed about all of the templates that I get from this guy. You pays your money and you takes your chances. But I started looking like this right here doesn't seem right. This seems awfully pointy. It doesn't seem nearly big enough. And because I've seen actual BC Rich Mockingbirds from the 70s and early 80s, and they just seem bigger than this. So I started to deep dive into BC Rich images, and lo and behold, they're all different. From year to year, they're all different. I'm going to roll in some pictures now of BC Riches from the late 70s and early 80s and discuss with you guys a little bit about some of the kooky things that make those guitars different every time. This first BC Rich that we're going to look at is from 1978. I want you to just kind of pay close attention to this, and if you need to flip back and forth from the other ones to get an idea of the dissimilarities between the bases that I'm going to show you, feel free to jump back around and stuff. So this is one of the obviously neck through. It's got two P bass pickups, a Leo Quan Badass bridge, and it's got the classic BC Rich 87 switch model thing happening here. Now this next one is from 1978 as well. It is also a Mockingbird shape. But notice how different it looks from the one that I just showed you. In the upper horn is deeper. The waist is a little wider, but the butt is narrower. Also notice that the P bass pickups are oriented differently. That is to say, the one the coil on the E and A string is forward of the coil for the D and G string. And if you look at the one also from 1978 that we just looked at, they are reversed. Okay, here is a 1979 model. Again, two P bass pickups, neck through body. Looks like we've got bird's eye wings, positively brimming with switches and gizmos. Leo Quan Badass bridge. Looks like another 24 fret neck. Again, a little thicker in the waist and skinnier in the butt area. Okay, this one, the owner can't tell if this is a 78 or an 80, but I want you to pay close attention to how the contouring is completely and radically different from the last two, but the shape is very reminiscent of the first one from 78. This is the first one though where you can kind of see that upper horn isn't as round as the as certainly as the last two. Okay, here is another late 70s or early 80s. It's kind of hard to for BC Rich collectors to actually verify when these things were made because there's a lot of mystery surrounding these. This guy is the lower horn seems to be quite a bit thicker and quite a bit longer than all the previous ones. This one also has a J bass pickup in the bridge position, and again loaded with switches and gizmos. Okay, here we have an 83 BC Rich Mockingbird bass. This looks suspiciously a lot like the shape of the very first image that I showed you guys. And once again, the coils are staggered the opposite direction of the previous couple that we looked at, but match the original 78 profile. That is to say, the coil for the E and A string is behind the coil for the D and G string. And as we have seen so many times, you just can't get away from 3 potentiometers and a bunch of micro switches and other weird stuff. Okay, this last one is a 1981 Mockingbird. Again, the pickups are staggered in a way that there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason. It's just sort of what it is. This one is yellow. I have a hard time believing this is an 81, but maybe. Again, it's kind of tricky to really be able to put your finger on exactly what year various things were made. So the real takeaway from this exercise, guys, is that all of these guitars and basses in the late 70s and early 80s were made one at a time. They were made by hand. They're all different. And it's the true concept of a custom shop that escapes most custom shops today. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just, there's so much homogenization that you don't get the kooky craziness that who knows why it was like that, but for some reason it was. Okay, back to the video. All right, so guys, as you can see, each one of these basses was different when they came out of the factory. They were a true custom shop. So what I think happened is BC Rich had a template like this, and you would plop it on the board that you were going to run, and if you were making a neck through, it would be, you'd only use a third of the template. I guess back in the 70s they were all neck through. They didn't start making bolt-on and set neck guitars until the 80s. But they were all different, and so the way that they got glued up, or the way, what it could be is this third top could have been one thing, and when you glued it on, you had to sand it smooth to fit the neck through body blank, and so this guy got a little shorter, and it's different every time, as you guys saw. So what we're going to do is we are going to start with this template as a guide, and we're going to make it what I think it ought to look like, based on the Mockingbirds that I like the best. So we'll get into that as we go. People ask me all the time, where do you get your templates? How do you make your templates, et cetera, et cetera? So you find them wherever you can, and if they don't take for granted that they're accurate in every way, especially when you're building a BC Rich style guitar, because those guys were different every time. So yeah, don't take for granted how template makers and their perfect, good to go templates may or may not be. So let's get started. What we'll probably do is we'll probably just go ahead and lay this out, and we won't use the template. We'll just go ahead and cut it out old school way, because we're only making one. So the first thing that I want to do is I've got my blank here, and I want to just position the body more or less in the center and draw a center line. And I'm going to use this template's center line as a jumping off point, and then I'm going to modify things as I go until it looks right. All right, now this is a guitar template, but I would be willing to bet you that the originals weren't very different from guitar to bass. A lot of people think that, when you make an SG or an EBO bass, that it's radically different from the SG guitar, or if you made a Les Paul shaped bass, that it would be considerably bigger than the guitar, but I assure you that they are not. So here I've got everything laid out, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of stretch and elongate this a little bit and make it fit what I think it needs to look like here. So I've got a couple of design aids, and these are the spindle sander spindles, and I thought if I use those as radius tools, then I can use them to actually sand the guitar when I'm when I'm getting down to it. You see what I mean? The original BC Riches, of course, were all neck through. This one's going to be a set neck, but we're still going to join the body here at this fret, which is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're still going to join the body at the 15th fret because that's the way they were on the originals. Now, you got to understand, the originals may or may not have been 24 fret, in which case you would have been joining at the 17th fret, but I want to have this much neck pocket when it's all said and done. You guys follow me? Everyone's like, you talk too much. I'm like, well, fuck off. Sometimes I've got stuff that needs to get said, you know? All right, so I want my neck to come to here, which is going to be a little bigger than the actual template. So now I'm going to push this guy out. I like the way this looks on some of the images that I've seen with a bigger radius here. So we're going to go with a bigger radius there. I'm going to shove it forward a little bit. That looks pretty good. I'm going to change the radius of this lower horn a little bit so I can eventually get my sander into there. Yeah, now we're starting to get where stuff looks right. This lower horn got a little bigger. These cutaways got a little smoother. And finally, I'm going to add about 1.5 inches to the back. Just because I think it ought to be that way. And we'll connect these guys. There we go. And finally, we'll go to where Chris is working and make him look at it and see what he thinks. But I think we're looking pretty decent, y'all. I'm gonna average that out a little bit. That looks fairly Mockingbird-y. Okay, y'all, I have just confirmed with Chris that our slight modification to the to this guitar template that we got looks pretty good. That's good enough for me. So now we are going to go over to the bandsaw and cut this guy out and start rough shaping it. So remember, when you're working with templates, you do not have to use the thing that you get. So like I said earlier, don't assume that these are 100% accurate in every way, because from manufacturer to manufacturer, they're going to be different. And don't be afraid to, kind of go outside the lines a little bit and do your own thing and make it look how you want it to look. If you come to the guitar building class, by the way, this is all stuff that's going to be covered, and I can't wait to see what some of y'all come up with when we do those classes. All right, enough of the bullshit talk. Let's go over to the bandsaw. One thing I like to do is drill these cutaway holes because they're a little tight, and it just makes life easier on the bandsaw. And I think I've made a couple videos about doing that. Fortunately, this 2-inch one was really, really dull, so it smoked all over the place. All right, bandsaw time. So what do you guys think? After a little bit of creative cutting on the bandsaw, I think we have something that's definitely Mockingbird shaped. All we have to do now is clean up the edge. And because I was smart enough to use my spindle sanding spindles as template material, I know I can get into all of these corners here, and these the big ones here we'll just go ahead and get on the edge sand. All right, I got as much as I could get with the edge sander, so it's going to be all these outside contours. This guy here. I wasn't really going for, since this is kind of a one-off deal, and since all the BC Riches that I've seen looked like they were one-off deals too, I just wanted everything to be nice and smooth and have that curve, that radius, feel right more than, look exactly perfect. So we've got a lot more work to do. We're going to switch tools. We're going to go over to the spindle sander and clean up all the inside swoops now. All right, y'all, so that's what our BC Rich Mockingbird shape looks like. And we did this the old school way. We didn't use my beloved pin router or my shaper. We actually just cut it with the bandsaw, cut it close, and then finished everything off with the spindle sander. So I believe that this is probably how this stuff was done at the original BC Rich factory. They didn't have a ton of super swanky tools back in the 70s. If you look that stuff up, there was a bunch of guys there with basically prison shanks carving these bodies and necks. So we don't know how they did all that stuff. Again, here is the I'm gonna hold the template that I got up to the body that I made, and you can see kind of there's been quite a few deviations from this template. And again, I wasn't 100% sure that template was exactly right, and I'm not 100% sure this is exactly right, but it's close enough for me. It looks identifiable as what it is supposed to be. So that is how we did that. Now I got to figure out how to mount this neck. This is a big neck. This guitar is playing you, Felix. So if you guys have any questions about what we did in this video, please leave them in the comment section below. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, why don't you go ahead and click that subscribe button now. Smash that sumbitch. And let's see, BC Rich guitars from the 70s are some of the things that have inspired me throughout the years. Not because I think shapes like this are so rad and awesome, but because I like the story of Bernie Rico and some of the cuckoo shapes that guy came up with, even though he started out his guitar building career as a classical guitar builder. So it's funny that this came out of the same shop that some of those classical guitars from the early 70s came from. I would urge you guys to look up the story of Bernie Rico and BC Rich guitars and do a little deep dive into that. It's fascinating stuff. If you like content like this, you might want to go over to our Patreon page and consider becoming a member. Even $1 a month goes a long way to helping us bring you guys cool stuff like this. If you can't do Patreon, we totally understand. Help us grow the channel in other ways, like sharing this video as many places as you can think of. So, until next time, this is Matt at Texas Toast reminding you that if you're so smart, build it yourself. That's what Bernie Rico did, and that's what I do too. Thanks for watching, everybody.